precip coming tonight, kind of break up some of this mulch some more, and then probably 1 or 2 more times, and then we're going to start laying some seed to it in the 3rd week of April. Looks good. Okay, so today is fertilizer day. I just dumped 50 pounds of 12-12-12 on this side, and I'm going to do 50 pounds or whatever. We'll take up the rest of this strip and then up on the hill. Then I'm going to go back over it lightly with the drag and kind of till it in. We have rain coming tomorrow and I believe Friday. And just doing it the old-fashioned way, cutting a hole in the bag, putting it in the bag spreader, and putting some miles under the boots, and that's how we're going to do it. This will be the first time that I've fertilized in a long time. I tend not to fertilize my plots, but fertilizer prices are down. I'm cheap, and I bought 150 pounds. I'm going to do some fall plots, so I have a 50 pound set aside for that. What else? I don't spray. That's probably reverse logic with a lot of farmers and food plotters. I just feel like we have enough chemicals in the ground as is, and I don't like glyphosate or atrazine. They're carcinogens. They cause cancer. They hurt the bees. There's probably 35 reasons why I'm not gonna mess with it, and also I had a cancer spot taken off of my neck, and that could have been from prior years of glyphosate applications and not taking care of myself. Who knows? But anyways, I would just rather use my drag and foul it like the old timers did. And as you can see, this is probably the totality of my equipment operation right here. I just got the old drag and I got my quad. I do have a tractor up in the shop. I got rid of my disc. I'm just kind of paring down and doing it the old-fashioned way, I guess. So I'm going to go ahead and fill that bag up and get some of this spread. I'm not too worried about the overspray on this, just because we're not farming, for crops. We're just trying to get a good food plot in here for the deer. So if I overspray a little bit, that's not a big deal. All right, highly scientific here, folks. I'm going to go through this and lightly drag all of that fertilizer that's on the ground here. As you can see, it's spread out throughout here. And my scientific method is, I know about put my phone down here. We're not going to be able to do this. I know about that 2 tillage. We're just pulling the grasses and the roots up and killing as much as we can. This was a food plot last year. On this hill has not been a food plot for a couple years when it's super sandy. So there's a ton of growth back here. And that's another thing that you have to take into account. If you're just going to be a food plotter, you know, you shouldn't expect, you know, huge quality on here unless you are going to absolutely do a bunch of soil testing. You're going to bring a bunch of inputs in, and you're looking to take pictures of this to put on Facebook. I'm just looking to hold does. The closer we get to the rut, I want bucks cruising around my food plot so I can put an arrow in. And that's it. Alright, we're back in the big plot now, and I'm just dragging this fertilizer into the dirt lightly. As you can see, it's a little sandy out here. Like we throw rocks with the best of them. Food plots aren't blue ribbon quality, but they do pretty good if you take care of them when you get the rain. And this plot right here is where my rifle blind is. These rifles here are part of the state. And this is a nice little wet hole down here, staging area. There's a bedding area behind that. Goes up into some close woods. My neighbors are really good about letting the bucks go through, so we've got a pretty good thing going on here for what God gave us. So we're pretty excited. And like I said, the rain is coming tomorrow and Friday, it sounds like. Girls' softball might get canceled. Rescheduled. Next week, temperatures are going to come up, and I believe we're going to throw some seed on the ground and pop it in and ready to rock and roll. A little history on this plot, just so we are all in the know. Last year was the first year that I planted this, and all of my property, or all of this property back here, my wife and I, we bought 40 acres. The house came with it in 2004. Almost all of this was plantation pine that had been thinned once around the time that we bought it, and then 6 years ago we ended up selling the timber, and a company came out, cut the trees down, left the tops in the piles, and they've just sat here ever since. My neighbor, who is has an excavator, dump truck, all that stuff, I paid him to come out here. I gave him, I think I paid him $600, but this is about 1 acre, and there was a bunch of stumps out here, and he sat out here for like 4 or 5 hours, and he just popped all the stumps out with the excavator. And you can see there's a pile of them over here. There's a pile over there, and you know, there's just, it was just land management, right? Well, the sand is, or the soil is sandy. It's not the best. So last year when I planted, I knew I wasn't going to get awesome, but it did really good. We didn't have, I don't want to say it was wet and it was or dry. We had what I would consider a typical summer around here. We had enough rain that it kept everything fed, but I had some weeds in here, so I came back here with my zero-turn mower and mowed a lot and just kept the weeds knocked down, and it ended up being a pretty good plot. But you know, the main purpose though is not to like grow horns. You know, it's to attract deer. You know, essentially try to get a buck in front of us, or a doe, whatever we want, whatever we're trying to shoot. So but this was all plantation pine out here, and pines love the sand. So my food plot seed that I bought 2 mixes that I'm going to put together. They're kind of a combination of both of what I'm looking for, and they are more apt to grow better in sandy soil than in loam or clay. So, but we will look at that next week. All right, so I wanted to show you guys a little bit of what I already have going on here. So, right up on this, up here, there's a shack that we hunt out of. We can hunt with our bows or gun out of it. This is on the one side of our property. Those trees in there that I've planted. Also, we've had some, you know, just through the winds and the birds and whatnot, drop seeds from these red pine, and they're started to grow in here. But this stuff right here, this is awesome. So what I have here is, it's a mix of some, well, so the seed itself came from Pheasants Unlimited here in Michigan. And so there's some forbs and there's wildflowers, big blue stem, things like that. And then there's switchgrass that I ordered. And this stuff is absolutely crazy. The switchgrass is so tall. Like right now it's dead, and this stuff will just get knocked down and the new stuff will grow up. But really it's like 6 to 7 feet tall. It's thick like bamboo, elephant grass, whatever you want to call it. It is just unbelievable. And I planted this on the periphery of my property because it's a buffer between the road and our house. And I just try to basically insulate the animals from any type of pressure, human pressure. So, and you can see there's trails in here, and it's knocked down. And I know I probably should burn it every year. I know prescribed burning is really good. I really don't want to burn half the county down if we don't have to, because I have a lot of it. So I just let the new grasses grow up through the old stuff, and it seems to work out pretty good. Anyways, so yeah, so I have some trees that have started to grow in here. This is a small food plot that I did in the spring last year. As you can see, again, it's sandy here. There's a little bit of stuff that is starting to grow up in here. And what I planted here last year was, there was some rape, there was clover, and turnips and radish in here. And they did pretty good, but obviously it's been picked over, and this is spring in Michigan, and a lot of these plots just die out, and we just do them every year. But you can see in here, my son and I have transplanted a bunch of trees. And what's good about the tall grass in here, it protects these trees from the bucks rubbing on them. Kind of get down in here, you can see how thick that stuff is in there, and it's really tall. I'm 5'6", and it's like way over top of my head. I'm a short king, and that's all right. Anywho, but yeah, there's like 4 rows of trees in there. You can see one back in there. But switchgrass, man, I am absolutely sold on this stuff. I know it's not native to here, but I did, like I said, mix in that Pheasants Unlimited mix, and it complements the switchgrass nicely. And yeah, we, you know, back where we've been doing the food plots at, I have 7 or 8 acres of all these little trees that have just grown back in. And I wait until the frost is out of the ground, and Nicholas and I, my son, we dig these trees up and we transplant them. And for the most part, they live. And like I said, with the switchgrass being so tall, it kind of insulates them, and then the bucks aren't so apt to rub on these trees, because once they rub the saplings, they'll just kill them. You can see I didn't plant those, they just blew glow back from those red pine right there. But pretty cool. Yeah, it's really sandy here. My gosh, you'd think it was Oklahoma. How sandy it is here. Lots of places will definitely help your success, right? Like, nothing special about this blind, but last year I almost killed an absolute hammer of an 8-point. I was at full draw to that side window. He came right around this little nook. You can see my house in there. I don't have the siding done on the back side, my bad. And he stopped right here, and this is about, I think it's right at 19 yards. And I was at full draw out of that side window, which is probably not the window you want to be with your bow. But I was going to kill him, and as soon as I got anchored, he whirled around and ran that way and went across. All right, so you can see like how tall that stuff is. Now this is on the more northern part of my property, and there's a road right behind that switchgrass, and it's buffered out pretty good. It's just that little spot right there. You can see the vehicles drive by, but it's definitely thick. Now this is all grown in. All these trees in here I planted, and they're coming up really good. But this would be kind of the equivalent of like native grasses or CRP grasses. I used to lease this out to a farmer, and at any time you'd have corn or soybeans in here. I think they did hay one year, and I just let it grow over and kind of go back to its natural form. I love it. The deer love it. Then you can go ahead and plant your food plots. There's a little hay plot up there for my wife. That's her blind. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of show you what that stuff looks like. We have a little kitty in the house that when sometimes we let her out, she likes to go into the stuff and play, and then she gets stuck in there. We gotta crawl in there to get her out. I mean, it is thick, thick, thick. Here's my son's four-wheeler path right there. Nicholas, he's a daredevil. But yeah, like you can see, like how tall this stuff is, and it's super, super thick, and that's about 10 yards deep. And yeah, that's gonna be pumpkins this year for sale. Travel softball's getting expensive, so we got to do something. Girls are putting us in the poorhouse. But yeah, that is how switchgrass can be used as a buffer.